What makes rich people, well, rich? Is it their network? Is it their intelligence? Is it their work ethic? All of those things are important, but today I want to focus on one factor that has helped me really build more wealth in my life and hopefully can do the same for you if you're watching this video. Here's the one thing that a lot of us tend to miss about money, even me included. Money is in our heads. The value that money has isn't because of the material of the currency or the numbers shown on your screen. It really depends on the shared belief that people have about the value of your money. We all agree, or at least the most of us agree, that $100,000 is worth more than 100,000 pesos. Why is that? It's because it's a social construct that we all have agreed upon that if you see this number, this is what it's worth. If we understand that money is a shared imagination, meaning you imagine that money is worth this, and I imagine that money is worth this, and we agree that this is what is worth, that it really begins in our heads. That's the point I'm trying to make. Naval once said that once you accept that money is a story, you stop fearing it and you start leveraging it. Because money is in our heads, the way that it exists in our heads has great significance. So if we have a positive view of money, then we also have a positive relationship with money. And if we have a negative view of money, we will also have a negative relationship with money. That the way that we view money has significant, big, massive implications on wealth and success that you achieve in your life. So that means that before I fix the way that I make money, the way that I spend money, the way I invest money, I must first fix the way that I think about money. So it really begins with how money exists in our heads before we even think about how money exists in our bank accounts or in our wallets. So how do you do that? How do you fix your money mindset? How do you fix the way that you view money so that you can start to build a life that creates more value and in return creates more wealth for yourself? So there are 3 actions that I've been committing to so that I can fix the way that I view money, and hopefully as I share this that you can find some practices, some principles that you can apply in your life today if you want to fix your view on money. Number 1 is to spot and challenge your money stories. Money stories are essentially the stories that we tell ourselves when we start thinking about the money that we earn. A good example of that is the story that we tell us that I'm always going to be poor because my parents are poor, my grandparents are poor, I'm also going to be poor. That's a narrative, that's a story that people tend to tell themselves. Another good example is the story that rich people are bad and greedy. So if we tell ourselves that story, obviously it's going to have an effect on the way that we view wealth and riches. Unconsciously, we act to validate the stories that we tell ourselves. Coming from a poor family, there are 2 kinds of stories that you can tell yourself. Number 1 is, I'm poor right now and I want to have a better life, so I'm going to do everything I can to pull myself and my family out of poverty. And we see stories like that, rags to riches stories. But on the other side, we also see the people with the same background, the same circumstance, the same experiences, but their response is completely different. They tell themselves that, well, because I'm poor, going back to the first example, and because my parents are poor and grandparents are poor, my whole generation line will be poor forever. 2 completely different stories to the same experience. Why is that? It's because the story is different. And so the challenge there for us is we have to start spotting and challenging the stories that we tell ourselves, because there's a high chance, my friends, that you and me, all of us, every single one of us, we are telling ourselves stories that are holding us back from more wealth and more money and more success, financial success anyways. So the first thing is to spot and challenge your money stories. The second thing that you want to do is you want to reframe money as a tool, as a neutral tool to be specific. When you see money simply as a way to transfer value, it's a way for us to determine, okay, this is the service that I want to get, and this is the amount of money that I'm going to pay for it. If we see money that way, it's just a whole lot better. It's a whole lot more healthy. If we see it in an objective manner. But the problem, I think, with us human beings, even the wealthiest people in the world, is we all have a certain view of money that isn't objective. When we invest, for example, right? And then we start to see the stock market start to drop. What happens? We respond in fear. We respond emotionally. Another example would be, you know for a fact that you need to save money, and then you start to see this seat sale that this plane carrier is gonna have, and all of a sudden you get excited and you experience a fear of missing out, and then you emotionally react to that by booking a flight. The problem there is that our response to money is anything but neutral. It is, in fact, many times emotional. And that's fine. We're emotional beings, right? I'm not saying, of course, that you'll be a robot, that you handle money like an AI chatbot. It's not gonna happen. We're human beings with emotions. Morgan Housel said this, that the psychology side of money will always be there. That's why he wrote the book Psychology of Money, because we will always react to money in a certain way. And the more that we can view money as a neutral tool, not as an emotional experience, then the better money decisions that we tend to make. And lastly is to invest in high leverage skills, number one, and social capital. Many times, what gets missed out is investing in two things. Number one is leveling up your skill, which tends to stop after college. And so when we get our degree, or you would argue that even after your master's and your PhD, that's kind of like the only place where we learn and we develop our skills. But like, it's just not enough. I mean, today information is everywhere, right? I mean, you've got YouTube, you've got podcasts, you've got online courses, you've got training seminars that go beyond the academic, so that you can continue to leverage your skills and make them more valuable. And the second thing that we tend to miss out on is investing time, energy, and resources on social capital. We invest a lot of time to doing the actual work. And the parable that really comes to mind for me is the parable of the two woodcutters. The first woodcutter looks and sees his axe, sees that it's not sharp. And so what does he do? He thinks to himself, I need to put more energy and time and effort into cutting wood because my axe isn't sharp. And then the second woodcutter, who also gets an equally unsharp, blunt axe, looks at the axe and says, my axe isn't sharp, so I need to spend time sharpening my axe. At the end of the day, the second woodcutter, the one who sharpened his axe, cut more wood. Why? Because he understood that he needed to invest into the tool that allows him to get more output. Now, in the same way, our axe are our skills and our network. Those are the two axes that we have. And if we're not spending time sharpening those two axes, those two tools that we have in our life, then yes, you're still gonna make money, right? But you're gonna make money in a very slow, incremental pace. So you'll probably get a salary increase of 3%, 5%, at the maximum 10% every year or so. And I've seen this personally in my life because I used to earn peanuts, right? I mean, my family, we were barely making ends meet. And during those times, yes, we invested a lot of time into doing the actual work, increasing our client base, and all of that so that we can increase our income. But when I started to invest time into training and leveraging high skills and networking with the right people, networking with gatekeepers, when I started doing that, it just created this exponential growth in our income. And I share that again, basically, as a testimony to how powerful it can be if you start investing your time, energy, and resources into the right things. But there always has to be this balance of doing the actual work and then reinvesting time into high leverage skills and into social circles, social capital. Personally, for me now, my goal isn't necessarily to make more money. It's not always that, right? I'm not saying that, okay, here we hear Chico again talking about how to make more money. It's all he thinks about. Well, sometimes. But it's not just that, right? It's also about fixing your relationship with money. We find ourselves being servants to our money. And so our mindset, our thinking is always based on, okay, money is at this level, I need to continue chasing after it. Versus having a relationship with money where you are the master and money is your servant. And if we do that, it can greatly change the way that we make money, that we spend money, that we invest money. Hopefully that was helpful. If it was, then subscribe to this podcast, this YouTube channel, and share it with a friend who also needs to hear this. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time around.